Hello, and welcome to my presentation on gamification. Basically, for my project, I was allowed a lot more leeway by Sarah Thomas to since I'm an instructional technology major, I was allowed a little more leeway to explore and read some books on building a multiplayer classroom using instructional design using gamification. And so basically part of what I did was I actually redesigned this class using gamification elements. And so for my presentation, I'm going to kind of discuss a little bit about gamification and some of the issues with homework the way it is and how gamification helped that. I'm also going to kind of get into some of the theories of education and how gamification can apply to that. But anyway, here's getting started. So one of the big things that an issue with education is students don't like homework. I'm sure there's many reasons why, and you probably have way more reasons than I'm going to list. I'm only going to list a few. That's just going to talk about why students dislike homework. And I think a big one is a fear of failure. Students are afraid of being wrong as opposed to seeing the mistakes as an opportunity to improve. Basically, how it works, is you get an assignment, take it home, you do it, you bring it back, and the next week it's completely marked with red lines all over it. You did horrible, but that grade's already in your grade book. You can't go back and redo that. You can't. Of course, and some teachers allow you to, but then that creates a lot more work for the teachers having to regrade. And also, by the time you get the homework back, most of the time, you've already moved on to the next big thing, and you're working on something new. And so it's really hard for a student to be able to go back and to be able to learn from their mistakes and stuff like that because they're too busy moving forward to the next thing. Where with gamification, one way it fixes that over traditional homework is it allows for immediate failure. But more importantly, one of the important aspects of gamification that's definitely different than it seems like a lot of homework and a lot of educational systems believe is that it's okay to fail. It allows for an opportunity to fail without it counting against you, without your grade being permanently, or not permanently, but well, for the semester, and I guess for all time for that grade, to be marred. To basically, if you thought I should maybe do this problem this way or that way, maybe this will be a smart way to do this or whatever, and you're completely wrong. You get like a 50% on a certain assignment, especially if it's a big assignment, that can haunt you going into the all throughout the semester. Where if you have a lot more opportunity to fail ahead of time, like I know my nephew has a class he took a while ago where they had some gamified elements, but it basically allowed the students to keep taking the problems and keep having issues. Keep having new problems come, and it didn't matter how many times they failed, but once they got to like 30 or 40 or 50 correct, then they are able to move on. Or you could have it where you have to, once you get 10 correct in a row, it shows that you are understanding it. If it's one of those things where someone can just randomly guess enough and get through it. But anyway, it's something that basically says failure is okay. The important thing is in the end, you get it. You understand what's going on, or you understand what you're supposed to get out of it. It doesn't matter how much you failed, because failure shouldn't be bad. And there's, you look at Japan or you look at different countries where when if they fail a test or they don't do it's absolutely amazing, then they have higher suicide rates, they have higher depression rates, because the students take failure so big, which is really ironic since a lot of video games come from Japan, but Nintendo and Sony and some others. But anyway, the next one is it discourages students from taking risks and lead to discovery. Basically, we need to be able to prepare students to innovate for the future. So we need to be able to allow students to choose their own path on how to get somewhere. So with gamification, we would allow students to basically say, here's what we want you to get out in the end, however path you want to get there, whether you want to, have let's say something metaphorical to mountains or whatever, and have that be, you can read this really technical literature, or you can read a bunch of software literature and it might take you longer, but then it'd be easier or whatever. Basically, identify where the students are at, identify where students need to go, and then allow for the students to find their own journey there. And so that's one thing that would really be beneficial to students. And unfortunately, a lot of times with rote memorization and things like that, or remember, multiplication tables or what have you, there's not really a lot of innovative thought uh, in some tiers of education. And then more importantly, and I'm sure you guys sympathize with this, teachers are busy grading. And of course, now we have it's different than our day when some of us may have been in school, because now you have a lot of automated like online classes you can take, or like where students go in and sign in sites and stuff like that, like the one I mentioned. But gaming also takes advantage of this too, because like I said, with the gaming aspect of it's okay to fail, it allows the students to just basically, in the end, not say, hey, how many did you get right, how many did you get wrong. In the end, can you say, does the student understand this, and does the student have a strong understanding of this material? And that allows for more simplified um, you have more simplified understanding where the student's at. And most importantly, through gamification, we can get kids experimenting, exploring, and discovering freely, and love learning rather than fear it. Next, I'm going to kind of go into what's called Mark Zuski's player and user types. Basically, what it is this gentleman who made up. He basically looked at different player types out there, different types of people who play video games, and realized that they're not all the same. Not everyone just likes to go and do quests. Some people like to explore. Some people like to do this. And so what he did is he actually created 6 player types. And why this is important to you is if you plan to ever apply gamification, you need to evaluate what your students are. And there's actually quizzes you can take that they're kind of small quizzes, but hopefully in the future there'll be more elaborate quizzes to kind of understand who your students are. But yeah, so the quizzes allow you to basically see what type of students you have in your class. So if you have a lot of, let's say, socializers, you may want to make a class that has a lot of where students are connected and related to each other. Where if you have a lot of achievers, you may want to focus on maybe more individualized, but also have badges, leaderboards, things like that. And so we're going to kind of go over them really briefly, and then we'll kind of go on to some more of the theories of education in general, and how gamification applies to that. So the first one is socializers. Socializers are motivated by relatedness. They want to interact with others and create social connections. So yeah, so like I said, leaderboards and stuff like that. Not leaderboards, sorry. Discussion boards and things like that, or things where basically you put them in a guild or make them feel like they're a group somehow. So you can make parties, guilds, things like that, and they would be connected in that way. Free spirits, they're motivated by autonomy and self-expression. They want to create and explore. So anything where, like, if you would have something that would implement something similar to Second Life or whatever, where the students can have a lot more creativity, or where they're building something, or where there's something where they can exercise their creativity. And like I mentioned before, these ones will be the flourish the most on. Basically, to say, here's where you are, here's where you need to get to. However you get there is up to you, whether you want to, and then allow them to kind of create their own journey, or however. And get, that tends to be more with games themselves, but gamification can definitely pull aspects from that. But the next one is achievers. They're motivated by mastery. They're looking to learn new things and improve themselves, and they want challenges to overcome. So like I said, badges are huge for these people. They will crave badges. So they'll basically be like, they will love to, if on their little avatar right by their screen says they've achieved this and this and this, or this is their latest badge. Something where it basically says that this is the cool thing that they've done. And so yeah, like I said, there's a lot of ways to appeal to achievers. And the achievers, as I'll kind of discuss, I don't really know the whole relationship, so there's some videos on this if you're curious. I'd be happy to provide those for you. But there's talking about how different groups work well with others and how they don't work well with others. Like, there's another group I'll get onto in a little bit called disruptors. And like disruptors and achievers, like disruptors like to mess with other people. They're the ones that like to like a little kid builds up a little tower. The disruptor will come along and smash it down. And So like, achievers and disruptors don't get along very well together. And it's important to understand the relationship and how those kids interact. But at the same time, though, you have socializers and philanthropists, who we'll get into next, actually get along really great because they want to help each other and they want to see each other grow. So actually, there's this entire relationship that of who goes well together and who doesn't. And so knowing what type of student someone is, it would be good to know how to group them and how to partner them with other people, because you don't want to cause that level of strife. But anyway, yes. So achievers are are one of your more common ones, but like I said, they're a little more easy to design for, because you just have to say, here's a badge for answering 100 questions, or here's you showed up on time to class for 100 or 20 days straight, or 1 month straight. Here's your I'm on time badge or whatever. And so they're actually pretty straightforward to design for, but you definitely want to make the effort to make the achievers feel appreciated. The next one, like I said, is philanthropists, and they're philanthropists. They're motivated by purpose and meaning. This group tends to be altruistic. They'll wanting to give to other people and enrich the lives of others in some way with no expectation of reward. And so, these will go great with achievers. These go great with a lot of different people, where they just want to just basically be part of the group, be part of helping other people, and like you'll see these in MMORPGs, where they're the ones that would go to towns and be like, hey, does anyone need help, or does anyone need anything? And they don't care about rewards. They know that the lower level town they went to, there's nothing else people can do for them, but they just sometimes want to feel good about helping others. And so allowing them to be able to work with groups and join other people, join other parties and stuff like that, and communicate would be great. They would go great with achievers or socializers. Actually, probably more achievers than socializers, because socializers will just kind of want to talk and more, but they definitely achievers, but socializers as well. Players are another one. They're motivated by rewards. They will do what is needed of them to collect rewards for the system. They are in it for themselves. These are the type of people that definitely would not go well with socializers. They want to do that. They want to play, do the system, play the game, get the achievements, but they don't care about working with others. That was my highest score as a player, as I just want to go through the system. I play a lot of single player games just because I don't really care as much about working with other people. I just want to achieve the goals and rewards myself. And so players would also be even more bothered by disruptors, who I'll go into now. So disruptors are motivated by change. In general, they want to disrupt your system, either directly or through other users, to force a positive or negative change. And so, not like as I mentioned, not all disruptors are bad, but they just want to somehow disrupt the status quo. Maybe they're the type of people that will want to find an exploit. Like if you left like some backdoor to immediately like if you left all your answers to the questions in the comments or whatever, they love to be able to post that, show it to everyone, or basically anything they can do to disrupt the system or somehow change things. They like to do that. But again, they also some people just like to be mean, and they definitely do not get along with players who are motivated players, because they're motivated by rewards, and they want to do it solo. Some other guy comes in and just says, knocks the stuff out of their hands or whatever. That conflicts very well with what is valuable to them. Oh, sorry, I apologize. I was looking at my notes and forgot to pass through the screen. So here's the 6 different types. You have socializers, free spirits, achievers, philanthropists, players, and disruptors. If you do ever want to get into gamification, it's important to at least address these. And you can actually, like I said, you can find tons of material, like on gamify.uk, I believe it was called, was a site that I was directed to by the instructional designer of this course, and was got some good information from that, and they discussed a lot on this. And now we're going to kind of go over some theories behind gamification. So these are educational theories that I'm sure all you know, and so I won't really go into what the educational theories are, but more of how they apply to gamification. The first one is intrinsic motivation. I'm not going to dive into that too much because we just went through all those player types. those tend to be the player motivations. Um, the extrinsic motivations can be driven by students and students' investments in their avatar. When I would, like for example, like in personally in games, like I might go back and forth killing enemies for hours. It's also known as grinding, and so we use that term a lot. Basically, just going back and kind of like you would grind a blade or whatever. You just have to spend time doing it, but every time it gets sharper and better. That's where the term comes from. But anyway, like I said, it's 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 basically putting in time. I'm motivated by seeing rewards for my character, and then I get sad when they die or when something happens and they lose rewards or lose something that they built up. So that's a strong motivator for me, and it could be a strong motivator for a lot of students. Um, That's something known as self-determination theory. There's three different elements of self-determination theory. We have autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So with self-determination theory, the student needs to feel like they're autonomous. They need to feel like they can do it themselves. They need to feel competent. Badges are a great way to do this. They can feel like they've achieved this and they've done it by themselves. And then also relatedness and be able to connect with others. Those are three, like I said, those are three important elements of self-determination theory that applies to games. Is when you put people in a, relatedness applies when you put people in a guild or a party, you can, group them together like that. Last one but not least is, last one is page, it continues to the next, but distributed practice is the space between learning. When someone completes a mission, they are challenged to go back for additional badges or higher scores or find a different way to solve the problem. Yeah. So continuing on, we have a few more. Scaffolding. I didn't even have to read that. I mean, as soon as I saw that one, this one's huge in gaming. So like, for example, like in Zelda, and I mean the Zelda is like you have to actually solve basic puzzles and perform various tasks and understand the mechanics before you're given your sword and shield. The same with a lot of other games like God of War and others. You'll start out with a very basic move list, and it's like you don't have many special moves, but then as you grow, or like with Zelda, a lot of other games is as you become a better player and as you practice with that, you get more stuff. Or like with World of Warcraft's a big one, or any MMO, is like when you first start, you have like one or two functions you can do or actions you can do, but then as you progress, like in World of Warcraft, towards the end you have 50, 60, 70 actions on your, like little icons on your screen. You need like a big 1080p or 1440p screen to even fit all your different action buttons. And so like I said, scaffold. So at first it's very basic, and then as it sees that you understand that, as you prove you understand that, it allows you to expand on, and as you understand that, it allows you to expand on. And so scaffolding is very huge in gaming, and it can definitely apply to gamification as well by maybe opening up, like for example, like in our Canvas tool, you can have certain courses open up once others are finished, or on condition that others get done. So when a student may first log in, they might only see just the introduction to the syllabus, but nothing else. But then as soon as they have done finished a certain assignment, then this discussion opens up, and then assignments open up, and then quizzes open up, and so then different pieces open up as they finish other items. And like I said, that's also that's a way to apply scaffolding to gamification. Episodic memory can be utilized in gamification because episodic memory can be utilized in gamification because you're developing a story that associates with the game. This form of dual coding allows the memory of that visual experience to be meshed with with this learning aspect. So basically, I mean, without diving too much into it, episodic memory is basically being able to associate a memory or event, taking the kids to a museum or whatever. It develops episodic memory because you have this episode, this thing that you see and experience brought into the game, and so allowing the student to have a digital world that they can tie in with their game, that they can, that they see that they're on a mountainous path or whatever. Basically, just tying a story and associating that to the game allows, at least to a degree, building of an episodic memory. Um, Social learning theory can be used when you have an avatar perform the activity that you're trying to learn. Um, so, like for example, like if you have like you're trying to learn dancing or whatever, you can have something in Second Life or whatever, where you can have the the person seeing the avatar do certain functions or certain actions, and then you would be able to learn that better because you would then have your character imitate that. Um, and like a lot of games like have like that where it's like, oh well, here's a practice dummy. Use your new fire spell on him, and then like you have to like do some 5 button combination to do it. But he's like, oh no, not like this. That he's like, if you do it wrong, he's like, not like that, like this, and then he'll do it again, and then you would do it again, and then he would do it again until you actually mastered it a couple times. It doesn't let you proceed on to the game. And so it's just a way to allow you to learn it by imitation. And last but not least, is flow. It's one of the strongest challenge. Excuse me. It's one of the strongest challenges of the game. Basically, it's the ability to get the person completely engaged, that they have their full attention. Like many of you seen a gamer know people who are games where basically it could be 4 a.m. and they're still playing and they're completely engrossed in the game because they just want to get to that next level or do that next thing. If you know anyone who's ever been addicted to World of Warcraft, like they'll go home and they'll sit and play that for 5 hours and not even look at the time or not even know what's going on. And if you had kids, I'm sure you probably try to get their attention or call their names or whatever, and they just completely are zoned in on the game. That's called flow. And there's also Fiero, which is more of a term in gamification, but basically the big win feel or the feeling of the excitement of it. But flow is the continuous flow. It's one of the hardest things to achieve in games in general. It's also going to be even harder to achieve in gamification, but it's your ideal goal. It's basically when you find the balance of that person's skill and abilities, and that fine line between anxiety and boredom, where you want to be able to challenge them, but you don't want it to make it so that they're too anxious or they don't know what they're doing. And at the same time, you don't want to make it so that this is too easy for them and it's boring, and you have to just balance this fine line. But if you can achieve a good flow in a game or any gamified environment, then you have a solid potential of something really cool. And that's the different pieces. Extra credits is a big one. They discuss more about video games and actually it's the theory of creating video games, but they actually have an entire category on, and this is on YouTube. But they have an entire category on just gamification, and they have gamifying classrooms and stuff like that, where they have some really cool, they have some cool examples that they use, and they talk about different studies and things like that. An amazing resource I use for anyone who's ever curious about how video games are made or the process of psychology behind video game creation. They do a phenomenal job, and I definitely recommend them. But like I said, they have an entire topic on gamification of 18 to 20 videos. Gamified Learning and Instruction by Carl Knapp. I don't know why I'm holding up the book now, but because obviously you don't see it. But basically, it's the book where I actually pretty much got most of this stuff from. A lot of these PowerPoints, a lot of the bullet points and stuff came from that. Multiplayer Classroom is what I actually used to design create a Canvas class. It has a lot of resources. If you really want to just get down and start understanding how to create a multiplayer classroom, I think that's a great first step. He actually says, here's some things I tried, here's some things that failed, here's some things that worked, and he did a great job fleshing it out some. And Reality is Broken is by Jane McGonigal, and she does a great job as well. She more just discusses video games in general. It's not so much about, it's a little bit about education, but it's more talking about how video games and how gamification can help society in general, whether it's business, education, whatever. And she used different examples of how games have been used for good, and just did a great job of explaining that. She's also a great public speaker, has had TED Talks, has spoken at Microsoft, has spoken in a lot of different places, and just a really great public speaker as well. And I recommend that you check out her work. And I think that's my talk. I went well over 10 minutes, but hopefully Sarah won't mind. Anyway, have a good day.